Now, moving into our next topic on today's show, we already saw one star leave the Las Vegas Raiders, and now we could potentially see another one, this time being Maxx Crosby, maybe pondering over the idea of maybe his long term future is not with this Las Vegas Raiders team. And, it's only been days after Devontae Adams has parted ways with the Raiders, and it seems crazy because recently, it would signal that this team has accepted a rebuild, and that's something that Maxx Crosby is not really thinking of if they decide to offer him up as a trade piece, right? If they really don't feel like the season is going their way, they could offer Maxx Crosby, and it seems like he's not really thinking of trying to stay with this team to rebuild essentially because the way Maxx Crosby, appears to be, obviously I've never met him, obviously, so he's always, it seems like a guy that's just trying to at least compete, be competitive, and be in contention for something, and whether or not that be with the Raiders or any other team in the NFL, he's a guy that's going to give 100%, obviously, right? And for him to be like that and be so loyal and be so grateful to the Raiders, but in the same breath, if they, lose this week and maybe they start answering questions differently in terms of long term, maybe they think that, or answer a question about a rebuild and think that that's reasonable for them to approach it that way, or maybe they trade away somebody else. I don't think that would really sit well with Maxx Crosby, giving the season away already. And that's why I feel like his name is being mentioned in some trade rumors because he's just too good to not be on a contending team at this point in time. And based on the idea of, facing a rebuild, it's not something Maxx Crosby is really interested in. Surprise, surprise, right? Obviously, based on what I said. And this is what he had to say actually about it, on the idea of a rebuild. And he said, quite directly, he said, "I'm not here to rebuild. I'm here to win. So I don't know whatever that means, but I'm here to win now. Wherever I'm going or wherever I'm going to be here to win. So that's all that matters to me." And not to say that the Raiders aren't trying to do that also, but it's a weird situation. Again, I don't know if the Raiders are, if Las Vegas trading the best player necessarily shows that they're also trying to win right now, as well. Getting away from Devontae and just accepting the fact that he just wants to leave, so let's just let him leave. It doesn't really scream to me that they're having too many strong feelings about winning right now, right? Because if you really felt that you're gonna win this year, there's no way you're trading away Devontae Adams, right? It's just not gonna happen. And from what we've seen so far, even carrying on into last year, it hasn't really been so over the top convincing, right? They've had some good moments. They've beaten the Chiefs, they've beaten the Ravens, but they haven't pieced it all together that really makes you think that all right, like this team has figured it out, and now this is who they are, and this is how they're gonna win games. There's been too much quarterback switching, just personnel switching and things like that, and it hasn't looked great on the football field either. They've had good wins, they've had good moments. I'm not saying they haven't, but truly being in contention to win, I don't know if they're gonna get that in any sort of relative recent time period where Maxx Crosby is gonna feel pretty confident that the Raiders can truly compete. And also they're sitting at 2-4 with that uncertainty, like I said, at quarterback, and a rookie tight end is now their best player. So again, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that doesn't scream to me that this team is one of the teams that's going to compete this year already, right? They're 2-4 with having Devontae Adams. Basically, they just traded him away, so you can only imagine what's going to happen without him. And we have seen it. They got blown out by the Broncos. They just got blown out by the Steelers. And they're going to be facing better teams going forward. So it's not looking great. And that's why I'm kind of manifesting this to happen. Because I would like to see Maxx Crosby in a better situation. That's just me. And also defensively, with the guys that he's playing with, this Raiders defense has 83 missed tackles in the NFL. That's the most in the NFL so far. And it's it's not even showing that this is a team that could really compete for their division, right? With the numbers that they're putting up. They've been beaten by the Chargers already. The Broncos just stomped on them. You don't think the Chiefs are probably going to do the same thing? So we got to start with the division, right? And they seem like a long way away from that at this point in time. And I know that their owner, Mark Davis, has said just on Wednesday that he's not thinking or wouldn't consider trading Maxx Crosby, but often the lack of winning and when you really start to pile up some losses in a very drastic way, oftentimes it really leading towards the deadline. I think it would be hard for Las Vegas to look at this roster and think after the deadline that we're just going to be okay with losing a lot of games, right? It's not going to look good for any team to lose this many games. So that usually leads to some reaction. So the next couple weeks are going to be important for them if they don't want these trade rumors to grow even more, right? Because the more they lose and the more like how bad they lose also, it's just going to make these rumors a lot louder, obviously, with Maxx Crosby. And who knows? He doesn't really strike me as the guy that's going to ask for a trade and just like storm in there and say that he wants to leave. I feel like he's too appreciative of the Raiders, too respectful, very grateful for what they've provided for him, obviously, and how he's built himself up there. I feel like he wouldn't do that to the Raiders. It would more so be them trying to plan for the future. So that's really the only thing I kind of see holding this up, other than the fact that the Raiders are just going to be stubborn about it. But so far, also looking at this Raiders team and trying to fish for something that gives you hope, it's hard to do so because one of their only couple wins has been against the Browns and the Ravens somehow. But since then, they've gone blown out by a couple bad teams, and Cleveland, there's not too much stock in that win that they have over them, to be quite honest. And also the Ravens is their biggest win. It's insane that they beat them, but still, going forward, the quarterback that even played in that game isn't even playing anymore. So it's a weird situation now with the Raiders, and also with just moving forward and talking about the games leading up into this deadline and how they're so important, right? They're going to be playing on the road against the Rams most recently, this upcoming Sunday, obviously, like we talked about. Then they're going to be at home against the Chiefs, and then they're going to be on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. And they're probably going to lose all of those games, honestly. Definitely the last two. Maybe they could sneak one against the Rams, but I already picked the Rams to win, so they're going to lose, in my opinion. So at that point, you're 2-4 when November 4th hits on that Monday after those games, after, what is it, week 7, 8, after week 9. It's going to be November 4th, that Monday after week 9. So the trade deadline's just the next day, and you're sitting here at 2-7. I feel like that's enough incentive for this Raiders team to look at, all right, we're good with Maxx Crosby, right? Having a player like him on our team certainly makes us better. But the way that this roster is right now, is this going to be good enough to just sit on our hands and think that most of these players and Maxx Crosby are going to come back next year and be even better? That's a hard sell for me. And also, where they are in terms of how far they are on offense, I don't know how the quarterbacks are going to line up in the draft or anything like that. But that's another thing. I don't feel confident in Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell being the quarterbacks to compete with Justin Herbert, Mahomes, obviously, and even Bo Nix now. They need that position also. And plus, they need some more offensive line help. They need a running back. They need some more, cover guys, some better linebacking play as well. So they have a lot of needs, and I don't know if they're going to have enough to just turn things around next year. Next year could look a lot like this year as well. So a lot of teams, a lot of times, just try and speed up the process by trading him away. So I don't feel like this is the craziest idea, kind of realizing where the Raiders stand right now. And at some point, it'll be interesting to see if Maxx Crosby really has had enough and he comes out and says that he wants to be traded, or if the Raiders sort of crack first and try and look for a trade now, put him out there on the market and say that they're taking calls, right? I'll be interested to see what cracks first. Probably the Raiders, if I were to guess. But Crosby overall, Maxx Crosby is at a great age right now at 27, where he needs to be competing. I believe for how good of a player that he is, along with the Bosa's, the Myles Garrett's, the T.J. Watts, obviously, even the Micah Parsons. They're on competing teams at least for the most part. He's in that group, but for him to be the only one kind of going home already by the end of November, it's a shame, and I would like to see him compete on teams that need a pass rusher still, like the Lions stand out, but that would be insane, like an insane trade to happen. Other teams that I'm just not thinking of right now, but he needs to be in a better situation, and I would love for him to end up in a better spot. So, it's not too likely right now, but the next couple weeks should certainly make it a bit more urgent for the Raiders to do something. So we'll keep an eye on that as we move forward with the show, but also with this development with Maxx Crosby. But in terms of the show, we got one more thing to talk about regarding trades. This time around, Mike Williams. 3 teams have reached out to the Jets so far about trading for Mike Williams. So we're going to talk about who those teams are, who does it benefit the most that Mike Williams joins their team, and also who just makes the most sense. We're going to talk about that in just a few seconds. Don't go anywhere.